Please stand and join us in the rededication of the Girl Scout Promise and Law. On my honor, I will do my duty to God and my country, to help other people at all times and to live by the Girl Scout law. A Girl Scout's honor is to be trusted. A Girl Scout is loyal. A Girl Scout is helpful. A Girl Scout is a friend to all and a sister to every other Girl Scout. A Girl Scout is courteous. A Girl Scout respects living things. A Girl Scout is disciplined. A Girl Scout is self-reliant. A Girl Scout is thrifty. A Girl Scout is clean in thought, word, and deed. In this challenging time, as one Girl Scout community, let us all together pray a Girl Scout prayer, a time for healing and sharing. Dear God, we call on you in truth. Hear our cry for help and lift the fallen and burdened among us. Turn our fear into courage and replace our helplessness with hope. God of compassion and kindness, grant us your promise of comfort and relief, and guide us to share our resources with those who are in dire need of help. Knit us together as one GSP family, considerate and caring, serving you and our country at all times. On your honor, see us through this crisis, and turn today into a time for caring and healing. Amen. Hello, Girl Scouts! You might be wondering why we've launched the Fight COVID-19 Challenge Badge. Tama ba, girls? Well, simply because we believe that despite these trying times, the Girl Scout spirit must remain ablaze. Before we proceed, let me give you an overview of the Fight COVID-19 Challenge Badge. The Fight COVID-19 Challenge Badge is a special program offering of the Girl Scouts of the Philippines for all registered Girl Scouts age 4 to 21. The pre-registration to this special program is through our FB group, Fight COVID-19 Challenge Badge. This program aims to engage Girl Scouts in all age levels in coping with the COVID-19 situation, continue their Girl Scout program while they're at home, and help them earn their badges under the 8-point challenge program in the Fight COVID-19 Challenge, and live the Girl Scout Promise and Law. The activities that we will be doing are all anchored to the 5 essential elements of the Girl Guiding and Girl Scouting educational method. So, have you heard about these 5 essential elements? Let me run through these 5 elements to you. Number 1. Learning in small groups. We learn to support each other, negotiate, make democratic decisions, assert our needs, solve problems together, and take the lead. Number 2. My path, my pace. We learn to respect individuals, make our own choices, learn in the best way for us, value our achievements, collaborate, not compete, and be confident. Number 3. Learning by doing. We learn to face challenges, learn through experience, take risks, make mistakes, get involved, and pay attention. Number 4. Connecting with others. We learn to value others, appreciate diversity, listen, connect, make a difference, develop empathy, and communicate. And last but not the least, number 5. Connecting with my world. We learn to be active citizens, get our hands dirty, enjoy outdoors, get involved in our community, speak out for change, and pay attention to the wider world. So now, who will facilitate this challenge? GSP Peer Eds or Peer Educators who are members of the National Program Committee, girl representatives to the Central Board, and young adult volunteers shall facilitate the Fight COVID-19 Challenge Badge. I guess we're now ready to start your challenge and meet your peer educator for this session.
What's up, girls in green? I'm your ate Justine.
And I'm your ate Francine.
Ayan. Hello, Francine. How are you? Nasaan ka ngayon?
Hi ate, I'm doing fine. Nandito po ako sa Dagupan, and I hope everyone who's watching us now is also safe and sound in their own homes.
So, from from 𝐷𝐸𝐿𝐿 pa. I'm currently here in Mandaluyong. Ang layo natin, pero imagine, parang we're connected, parang malapit lang. So, kamustahin naman din natin ang mga girls natin, ang ating mga viewers. How are you girls doing? I hope na lahat kayo ay okay. And gusto din palang banggitin kasi have you seen their outputs on Facebook? Ang ganda. They were so creative. Oo nga eh. You can search it nga pala by typing the Fight COVID-19 GSP Challenge Badge and makikita nyo kung gaano creative ang mga girls natin in doing their output. So, we really commend you, girls, for your efforts na pag-accomplish ating mga challenges.
Bukod sa creative, ate, ang bilis nila. For example, yung sa amin, yung latest challenge, yung Challenge 8, after 5 hours ng posting, may nakapag-accomplish na kaagad ng kanilang output. So, nakaka-amaze talaga yung capability ng ating mga girls. So, para sa ating session ngayon, alam ko nagulat kayo girls na, di ba ate, katatapos lang ng 8th session, tapos may bagong session ulit. But don't worry, hindi ito katulad ng usual sessions natin, di ba ate? Kung makikita nyo sa ating title sa baba, ang ating session ngayon ay kailangan nyo lang umupo, makinig, at matuto sa mga sasabihin ng ating mga speakers for today.
That's right, Francine. So now we will be having our much-awaited GSP Peer Talk. And for this session, it will not just be me and Francine because we've invited guest speakers. Mga tao na mag-share sa atin ng mga bagay-bagay na pag-uusapan natin ngayong hapon. So, allow me to introduce our first speaker. She is a medical doctor, currently working as one of the medical staff at the recovery hub of Metro Psychiatric Incorporated, GSP Peer Educator on Adolescents' Female Health, and one of the awardees for the GSP 75 Young Achievers. She is no other than Dr. Tisha R. Banta. Hello, Dr. Tisha. Welcome po.
Hello!
Ayan po. We are so happy to have you here po.
Yun nga, I'm Tisha Catherine Banta. I am a Girl Scout since birth. Kapapanganak ko pa lang, nag-investiture ceremony na kami. Well, hindi. Kasi my mom is a Girl Scout. My grandmother was a Girl Scout. Yun. And I just stopped attending activities when I had to enter medical school. So right now, I'm just 2 board exam days away from my license because I took the board exams last March. And since COVID nga, isa ako sa naapektuhan, hindi pa namin natatapos yung board exams natin. Pero praying
po, positive result. So, how did Girl Scouting affected you po as an individual? Or how did it help you become the person that you are today po?
Well, Girl Scouting was a big part of my life because it opened me up to many opportunities to make myself grow, to make myself better as a female, as a girl. And also, I was able to attend international events where I was a member and also I was a guest speaker. So, if it wasn't for Girl Scout, I wouldn't be the doctor who I am.
Isa po kayo sa mga halimbawa or mga example ng mga girls natin na talagang malayong nirating sa buhay at malaki yung naitulong ng Girl Scouting. So, Francine, do we now proceed with our Q&A part?
Yes, of course, Ate Justin. For the highlight of our GSP Peer Talks, we'll be asking Dr. Tisha some questions about COVID-19. The first of which is, what is COVID-19? Specifically, Dr. Tisha, what are the basic information that every individual, especially a Girl Scout and her friends and family, should know about this coronavirus disease?
Okay, so as we all know, kasi it's been in the news every day and we're stuck here at our home, so no choice tayo kung hindi manood ng news. Well, coronavirus disease or COVID-19 is an infectious disease, meaning nakakahawa, caused by a newly discovered coronavirus strain. So, before pa meron ng coronavirus, at ang example dito, yung nag-cause ng severe acute respiratory syndrome way 2000. Pero this one is a new strain of the virus. COVID-19, CO stands for corona, V for virus, and D for disease. Okay, formally, this disease was referred to as 2019 novel coronavirus or 2019. So, most people infected with the COVID-19 virus will experience mild to moderate respiratory illness. So, respiratory, ang na-experience natin usually ay colds, cough, sore throat, kasi yun yung nagko-comprise ng respiratory tract. The most common symptoms of COVID are fever, tiredness, dry cough, and some patients may have aches and pains, nasal congestion, runny nose, sore throat, or even diarrhea. So medyo, if we look at it, parang it's just like a flu. Pero, this one, it could cause severe symptoms to special groups of people. Who are these special groups of people? Usually, the COVID virus affects those who are elderly or those who have comorbid conditions, which means yung may mga heart problems, lung problems, hypertension, diabetes, yun yung mas naaapektuhan. So for those na children and young adults, they can have the coronavirus disease, but usually it manifests in a milder and more manageable presentation.
Nabanggit naman yung mga symptoms, pero paano yun namin malalaman if alarming na yung situation namin? Like, for example, kunyari ako, inuubo ako, or meron din akong sipon, automatic na yun na kailangan pupunta na agad sa doktor, magpapacheck up na, or magpapatest na for COVID?
Okay. So, well, napaka-congested na din kasi yung mga hospitals natin ngayon. It's so overwhelming, and right now, we have to admit na going to the hospital, medyo risky na din. So, we have to follow a certain protocol on when we should go to the hospital. So, nasabi ko nga kanina yung mga most common symptoms of COVID-19, like fever, tiredness, and dry cough. When we develop difficulty of breathing or worsening of the fever, especially if we have a contact with a known case of COVID-19, or we went to places with known cases of COVID-19, that is when we go to the hospital for testing. Right now, the only way to know if we are positive for the disease is through testing. May mga lumalabas sa rapid test kits, but we do not advocate those things kasi mas mataas yung false positive results. Hindi pa siya ganun ka-reliable, hindi pa siya ganun ka-tested. So if we really want to be tested with COVID-19, dun tayo sa mga testing facility centers. And before we get tested, meron talagang criteria silang tinitingnan if fit ba tayo na matest, because we know na limited yung testing kits natin. Pero fortunately, nagagawa na ng paraan ng government natin at ng mga NGOs natin, yung mga hospitals natin, na dumami yung testing.
How do we know, Dr. Tisha, when we get or where do we get this virus? Kasi I've heard po and read news articles na nagsasabing airborne daw po yung virus, pero may mga nagsasabi din naman na it's through air droplets po. So very conflicting po yung nababasa kong information kung saan ba at paano natin nakukuha itong virus.
Okay, sige. So what is the difference between airborne and air droplets? Kasi yung airborne, usually, ito yung mga diseases na really small, yung mga smallest sizes of disease, of the virus, that floats in the air when nag-sneeze or nag-cough yung isang person. Pero itong ating COVID-19, it is through air droplets, or it is through droplets, like yung saliva natin, from coughing, from sneezing, from talking, na less yung chance na magstay sa air. Studies to date suggest that the virus that causes COVID-19 is mainly transmitted through contact with respiratory droplets rather than through air. So, droplets talaga siya. And then, pwede din kasi na, for example, nag-sneeze ako, tapos, nag-cover ako ng mouth, and then later on, ay nag-handshake tayong dalawa, and then you touch your eyes, your nose, or your mouth, pwede rin siya makuha through that way. So, basta any person that come into contact with the droplets from an infected person can have the disease.
Also read din po na parang
when we talk about the virus, parang they always relate it to the SARS na virus po before. How is it different from coronavirus now po, considering na yung name po talaga ng virus is SARS-CoV-2 virus po?
Both SARS and /COVID are caused by coronavirus. They are genetically linked, pero hindi sila pareho. Specifically, yung SARS before, it was more deadly than COVID, pero less infectious kesa sa COVID. Meaning, mas nakakahawa yung COVID, pero mas nakakamatay nun yung SARS.
So, kasi ngayon parang confusing eh. Parang ako bilang isang like ordinary citizen, parang nakakapagtaka, bakit tayo meron itong virus ngayon? Parang bakit ngayon siya dumating? Or in an opinion of a medical expert, saan ba nanggaling tong virus na to? At saka bakit ngayon sa panahon na to ngayon?
Okay. So, viruses, lagi naman yan nandyan. It's always been there. It just so happens that this virus is more dangerous than our usual virus. For example, common cold. Talagang may common colds na tayo before. It is also caused by a virus. Nakakahawa din siya, pero hindi natin siguro masyadong napapansin kasi nawawala siya agad. Hindi siya nagli-lead into severe diseases or to death. So, like any other organism, nag-mutate or nag-e-evolve talaga sila. And I think there has been a pattern na every other century or every so often, there would be new strains emerging talaga. Kaso, ang problem, dahil new strain to, wala pa tayong treatment for it. Kaya, nagsispread agad siya bago natin magamot kasi late na dumadating yung treatment. Hindi mag-work yung treatment for the other viruses kasi nga, new strain ito. That's why nauuna yung pagkalat kesa sa pag-treat sa kanya.
How do we prevent po, Dr. Tisha, from acquiring COVID-19? Kasi nabasa natin na syempre we have to stay at home, we have to put ourselves in quarantine. Pero what other ways pa po could we prevent acquiring COVID-19? Lalo na po pag considering ngayon limited yung stock sa bahay, tas may mga kailangan lumabas para bumili ng materials or supplies. So paano po natin ma-ensure na safe pa rin po tayo at yung mga fellow Girl Scouts natin?
Okay, sige. Sabi sa WHO na website, the best way to prevent and slow down transmission is being well-informed about the COVID-19 virus. So, ang mga suggestions talaga, number one, washing of hands frequently. Kasi simply washing with soap and water could kill the viruses. If walang soap and water, we could use alcohol. The question is, when to use soap and water, when to use alcohol? If our hands are visibly soiled, yung may dumi talaga, for example, nag-gardening tayo, ganyan, na may lupa-lupa, that is the time na soap and water yung gagamitin natin. Hand washing for at least 20 seconds. If not, wala naman tayo masyadong activity, nakahiga lang or nagpapahinga lang, we could use alcohol. Okay? So, number 2, maintain social distancing, which means maintaining at least 1 meter or 3 feet distance between yourself and anyone who is coughing or sneezing. Kasi with that, if we are closer to a person who is coughing or sneezing or talking, we can breathe in the droplets, and yun nga yung sabi natin, nagiging cause ng pagkahawa natin ng COVID. Number 3, avoid touching eyes, nose, and mouth kasi yan yung passageway para makapasok yung virus sa ating katawan. Next, practice respiratory hygiene. What does that mean? When we cough or when we sneeze, we do it sa elbow, hindi yung dito sa hands because sabi nga natin, if we have contact with the droplets, makakahawa din yun. Pwede rin sa tissue and then don't reuse the tissue, throw it away kaagad. If you have fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical care early. So yun yung mga basehan natin when to go to the hospital. Again, fever, cough, and difficulty breathing. Pero if you feel unwell, yung medyo parang na pagod, ganon, may colds, pero hindi pa naman fever, cough, at difficulty breathing, we should stay at home. Kasi the chances are na makahawa tayo when we feel unwell is increasing. Okay? And last, stay informed and follow advice given by your healthcare provider. Okay, if you think you need to go to the hospital, one advice of the World Health Organization is to call first the health facility. So, what's the importance? Number one, ma-assure natin na they could accommodate you. If not, they could lead you to another facility. Kasi I hear many cases na tinatanggihan daw ng hospital, ganyan. So, the simplest thing is to call first to check if they could accommodate you. Or if not, ma-lead kayo to another facility who could accommodate you. Okay?
Doc Isha, dagdag ko lang din na question. Since nabigay niyo na sa amin yung mga important reminders on how we can prevent acquiring this virus, kailangan din kasi maging clear sa mga tao na after this enhanced community quarantine, we have the new normal. So, di ba hindi naman din po dapat na during this quarantine lang natin pinapractice tong mga bagay na to. So, this will apply din po, di ba, na parte na to ng new normal po natin?
True. Kasi even before naman, ina-advocate na namin as healthcare providers yung washing of the hands, proper coughing etiquette. So, I think this is an eye-opener to everyone to continue this safety precautions even after the quarantine.
Yes. I guess we've got all the important informations that we need to know about COVID-19. So, Doc, standby na po kayo kasi we will now proceed to our next topic. So, Francine, ano nga ba yung susunod na pag-uusapan natin?
Yes, ate. So, since napag-usapan na natin yung about sa virus, particularly yung signs, symptoms, and what to do to prevent getting infected with COVID-19, mapag-uusapan din natin yung health natin as an individual. Bukod sa physical aspect ng ating health, syempre meron tayong mental health na pwedeng mapag-usapan at pwedeng tugunan lalo na sa time ng isang crisis katulad ng COVID-19.
Tama ka din, Francine. Kaya naman kung hindi naman nga tayo lalabas ng bahay, susunod tayo dun sa lahat ng mga preventive measures na binigay sa atin ni Dr. Tisha, ano naman yung ibang aspect ng health natin, di ba? So sabi nga ng World Health Organization, they define health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being and not merely the absence of disease and of infirmity. So hindi lang siya about sa physical health. Nandiyan din yung mental health, yung social health natin na naapektuhan ngayon ng COVID-19.
So, bale ate, marami pala talagang aspect ng health natin na apektuhan ngayon. Considering na nasa quarantine period tayo at halos yung ibang Girl Scouts natin, isolated sila sa kanilang mga rooms or sa kanilang sariling home. And minsan hindi pa sila nasa home nila, especially university students na possible na nasa dorm na yun.
Yes, ganun na nga, Francine. Kasi katulad ngayon, di ba, nasa bahay lang tayo, mas madaming time na mas nag-iisip tayo ng mga kung ano-anong mga bagay, na nag-lead sa kung ano-anong mga isipin na hindi maganda, di ba? And at the same time, di ba, parang sinasabi ngayon na social distancing, so nilalayo natin yung sarili natin sa mga tao, pero meron yung ibang epekto hindi lang sa, yung sa physical nga lang natin, kundi pati sa mental health. So sabi nga nila, di ba, there is no health without mental health.
I agree with that, ate. Hindi nga lang naman kasi dapat yung physical health natin ang ating dapat tugunan at pag-isipan ngayong panahon. We also have to focus on our emotional and mental well-being bilang isang individual. To join us for this topic on mental health and caring for yourself during a time of crisis, allow me to introduce our next speaker. Our next speaker is a psychologist, a former National Program Committee member, former WAG's Asia Pacific Committee member, one of the GSP 60 Young Achievers, and currently a council board member at Cagayan Girl Scout Council. Let us all welcome Dr. Febe Marl D. Paan.
Hi! Hello, Francine. Hello, Justin. And hello, Doc Tish.
Hello po.
Kumusta na?
We're so happy to have you here sa GSP Peer Talks natin as one of our guest speakers. So,
Yeah, it's a pleasure and all the time as the Girl Scouts.
Yay! Thank you, tita.
It's been a while, no?
Yes,
Together
po.
with Justin, Francine, and lalo na kay Tisha.
Yes, tita.
Everyone is okay?
Tita, could you share with us something that you're currently doing now po? How are you coping up with the crisis? Kamusta po kayo dyan?
To date, I think it's better because, to tell you honestly, during the first 2 weeks of lockdown, it's very ironical because I also did experience a kind of stress, and it almost boiled down to anxiety. But then towards the end of the second week, I have to tap myself and would say I should be helping others. I should not be the one being taken care of by people around me. So it almost has taken its toll on us because right on the second day of lockdown, I think we were informed that there's a positive case here. It's like everyone was so afraid, like especially in the city. It's like everyone was chatting even in the wee hours in the morning because of this anxiety, So far, the kids are around and we've been doing well. We've been coping, and we're now 0 case here, not just in the province, but also in the region. And so we're doing our role by staying at home and by praying for everyone, especially the frontliners, that this soon will end.
That's nice to hear po, Tita. Actually, it is really glad to see you again after so many years. We met when I was a younger Girl Scout back then. So before we proceed to the set of questions po that we have for you, allow me again to introduce Dr. Tisha R. Banta, who currently works as a medical staff at the recovery hub of Metro Psychiatric Incorporated. She will also join us for a topic on mental health.
Hello. Tapos nakakatuwa kasi we are all Girl Scouts. Imagine, we have these 2 professionals pero dalawa sila na nagmula din or part din ng Girl Scout. Ayan. So again, welcome to our 2 special guests. We will now proceed with our first question on mental health. So, Tito, what is the relevance of talking about mental health amidst this pandemic? Ano po yung bakit natin kailangan pag-usapan tong mental health? Diba, parang ang concern ng lahat, physical health, na hindi tayo dapat mahawaan ng COVID. Pero bakit kaya dapat pa din na maging parte to ng concern ng lahat?
Oh yeah, so perhaps before I answer the question, what's the relevance of talking about mental health amidst this pandemic, is we have to clarify what mental health is all about. So like Dr. Tisha mentioned a while back, we refer to the psychological well-being of an individual. So when we speak of psychological well-being, it's something that's not part of the body, but it's a function of the body, especially the brain for that matter. So mental health refers to the psychological well-being of an individual in general, or again, the absence of mental illness. So we also refer to it as a state of functioning at a satisfactory level, both emotional and behavioral in nature. There's this thing that what we call that there's nothing that exists in the mind that did not pass through the brain. So in other words, physical goes with psychological or mental well-being. Now, you're asking, why is there a need to talk about mental health during this pandemic when everything has been almost said by Dr. T about the physical aspect of this pandemic? I think the pandemic has brought a lot of significant changes in our lives, and I think you agree with me. Now, and it has caused a lot of widespread concern, fear, and anxiety. It is a big event that put our senses in a state of that actually tests our sense of flexibility and resiliency across the globe. So it's not only happening here in my small city, but it's also happening everywhere. So with it, we are faced with the challenge on how to appropriately deal with and manage our reaction against these disruptive effects of this pandemic. So if we do not possess the necessary flexibility towards this adverse situation, we are likely to manifest distress displayed in mental health concerns. So talking about mental health brings about the issue that emotional well-being is as important as the physical well-being. And maintaining our mental health would rather keep us stronger. So the COVID-19 thing is for real, and suppressing our thoughts and emotions about it is likely to lead to worse scenario. It's just like, how do you feel, guys, when you have something inside and you've been keeping it for the longest time? You're almost to bed, and the least thing you know is that you have backed down for that matter. So Dr. Tisha have also mentioned about the effort of the World Health Organization. They have taken the impact of pandemic on people's lives, and they have continuously monitored and have provided the government and public about the information that we are supposed to be guided with. You know, in psychology, there's such thing as what we call as talking cure. Isn't it that when you are bombarded with, shall we say, a lot of anxieties, a lot of fears, and a lot of emotions that you've been keeping for the longest time, and you just keep it to yourself. The next thing you know is you're already there for a mental health checkup. So this talking cure has been advocated by the psychologist, the popular psychologist Sigmund Freud. So that if people get to talk about their fears, about their anxieties, and about their experiences, they're about to let out these impending emotions. And when rightly handled, they are eased and such concerns about these dreadful preoccupations are being dealt with. They may also get the idea that, oh, hindi pala ako nag-iisa, diba? Akala ko ako na yung nahihibang, akala ko nababaliw na ako. Yung pala, kapag linabas mo ito at pinag-usapan, you get the idea that you're not alone, and this suffering in isolation, in silence for that matter, may be dealt with by either the significant people around you or professionals that you can face or you can go to during this pandemic. So actually, this COVID times is one most opportune time that mental health should be talked about. So apart from the physical care, mental care in the form of emotional and psychological techniques to address this pandemic should also be discussed. So before the pandemic will take its toll entirely into our own consciousness, it should be talked about. Yes, Tisha, is there anything you would like to?
Well, sabi nga sa amin sa Recovery Hub, 2 epidemics are happening right now. The alarming spread of COVID-19 and the wider spread of anxiety about catching the virus. And the anxiety and worry of this pandemic can completely consume us. That is why we really need to talk about mental health during this pandemic and how it affects us.
I really like what Dr. Febe and Dr. Tisha, how you mentioned how important it is for everyone to take care of their mental health. Lalo na ngayon, may stigma pa rin po about mental health care and seeking out your emotional well-being. What are the particular effects po of this pandemic to an individual's mental health? Kasi nabanggit niyo po, Dr. Febe, about undue stress and anxiety. And then, we've been hearing about cabin fever, minsan po when we go on social media. So, what are the particular effects of this pandemic to an individual's mental health?
So if we talk about the effects of the pandemic to all of us, to our individual mental health, actually there's a wide range of effect, from pretty simple to nasty grave. It's just like the effects to an individual's mental health may take the form of simple worry. So you worry, and then you fear. What is this fear all about? The fear of contracting the disease, or even worse, the fear of dying. And then you're led to depression. For some people, they also get confused because why is it that it's happening at this point in time? I don't know if it's Francine or Justin asking the question while ago to Dr. It's like, all of a sudden, this kind of thing just emerged right now when I'm about to finish my degree, when I'm about to take my board exam, when I am about to get married, when I'm about to take my trip provided by the GSP or 𝐷. So, and then there's this change of schedule, especially among young children and growing individuals. So actually, they get confused if they don't get the proper orientation or information from adults. And then here comes the adjustment problem. It's not just the biological body that adjusts, but even in terms of our framework, like policies have suddenly changed. And then there's this problem of developing the stigma, or what we call shaming. If you happen to be a PUI or PUM or a suspect, and so from the initial effects that actually are physical for that matter, it boils down to something psychological or emotional. And if these are not properly dealt with or attended to, it can create a mental health problem. So for example, the worry turns to fear, and the fear becomes anxiety. And the anxiety suddenly develops into depression if it's not being dealt with properly or as early as possible. So it's likely that the mental health of an individual becomes unstable or in danger if these effects are not being diagnosed, are not being monitored right from the start. So it has been presented, for example, in one webinar that recently, would you believe that it has been presented that recently the incidence of child abuse during this pandemic time has increased, for the reason that a lot of young children from ages 10 to 13, while it is true that they have been isolating at home, they also isolated themselves within the home. So they stay in their own rooms. They have been subjected to manipulation. Actually, the result of this presentation that was made recently showed that they succumb to sexual abuse on social media, because perhaps the parents are just too busy with their own thing at home, or perhaps they're also engaged with a lot of social media activities, because it's actually the thing that's being mostly done by individuals who are in home quarantine right now, or for all of us who are in isolation. So it's very alarming that even at these pandemic times, the increase in terms of sexual abuse on social media has increased. So the other effect of isolation could be that children could be exposed to interpersonal violence. If parents, for example, or if members of the family are not in good terms with one another before even the pandemic, and now that other kids are exposed to this realistic scenario at home, because before they were able to escape because they're in school, or most of the time they're with their friends if they have free time, and if they get to see the unfavorable and experience the interpersonal violence between and among couples, or even among family members, it's also very damaging. And added to this, so I'm talking about exposure of children in family situations where the situation is very unlikely. Let's say, for example, in the Philippines, we have unready families. And if we have unready families, this would tend not to be parenting roles in real manner, or staying at home for the longest time since the lockdown, they get to expose to this marital troubles among families or among couples. The other thing is that added to this is the disappearance. I was mentioning earlier that in terms of mental health repercussions with this COVID, is like when children are starting to stay, since children have stayed at home for the longest time, perhaps this is the longest time where families have been together as full-time members, family. They get to expose also to the adverse effects of having an unready, having a disappearing family, like for some parents who are abroad, and this time they're home, they can feel the effect that mom and dad are not really here, because when they used to go to school, perhaps the effect is lesser. And added to this, the worst is having experienced the pathology of family. So when they have been exposed to abuses before, they had a way to escape from these abuses because they go to school. But this time, since all of them are there, perhaps there is a danger that the exposure is even stronger. The family violence are being escaped by these children, being reinforced because of this lockdown or because of this pandemic. So we always say that children can adjust easily, but sometimes because of all of these things, and if they lack explanation, they also get confused, and the understanding is also the effects of this pandemic. And I mentioned earlier the effects, like they get worried, there's fear, there's the development of anxiety, and worse is if it falls into depression. And then you have the adjustment and the development of stigma and shaming. So as an offshoot to all of this, the individual can be irritable among young children or teachers, annoyed, and they are easily angered. So they also tend to be more demanding to their parents since the parents are there. So perhaps they would say it's payback time. And as a result, they become very demanding to parents. And the parents who are also trying to adjust to the situation, who are trying to bear the consequences of this pandemic, may not necessarily understand the demands or give into the. I was talking about as an offshoot to the primary effects of this pandemic. Children can be easily irritated, annoyed, not just children, even among us. So we tend to be more demanding. Children or grown-ups tend to be more demanding to their parents. And the parents who are trying to adjust to the situation, who are actually trying very hard not to show that they are affected also, would sometimes fall into a trail that it's too much. So what happens is that there's the clash between the kids and the parents. So this again would call for another mental health attention for that matter. So they are also trying very hard to both camps, the younger camps and the adult camps in the home, are getting into a clash because the other one is trying to do his or her best to be able to give a modeling to the kids, not being stressed so much. But, there is an until to everything. So if the parents could reach the threshold of trying to understand what's actually happening around, and the kids would tend to be more demanding, or perhaps having problems with their online classes. So, again, nagsama-sama ko minsan. So, sometimes it can create an emotional warfare between kids and the parents as well. So, these are just some of the effects.
Ayun po. So, it is the change din po talaga, tita, no, na naidulot ng COVID-19 na nakaka-apekto sa atin kasi people are so afraid of experiencing change, and yung difficulty of coping up and adjusting with the current situation, parang yun yung nagiging root cause ng madaming mga mental health issues na na-experience siguro ng marami ngayon. And siguro we've seen the effects on those people na nasa quarantine eh. Pero Dr. Tisha, gusto din po namin malaman, how does the mental health of our frontliners is affected during this pandemic po? Paano naman yung side nila, kung ano yung nagiging epekto nun sa kanila?
Okay. Well, I can speak for myself because health professionals are people too. And for example ako, when I learned that there's gonna be a lockdown, I had to make a choice if I would go home, stay at home, or stay here at work. And like many health professionals, we chose to stay here in the hospital or at work to serve our patients. So it was not an easy decision. Sometimes there would come a time na I would question the decision I've made. Na tama ba nagstay ako dito? Or paano na yung pamilya ko? And I can't go home kasi one, if kunyari may exposure ako dito and umuwi ako, mapuput ko at risk yung family ko. And number two, paano naman yung patients namin dito, diba? Sino mag-aalaga sa kanila? So, affected din yung healthcare professionals natin. Kaya, I'm really requesting for everyone's patience with regards to their doctors, to their nurses, to everyone in the medical field. Kasi minsan, uso yung doctor shaming, there's a shaming, galon. Napapagod din yung medical professionals, pero hindi kami sumusuko kasi we dedicated our lives to serve the people.
Saludo po talaga kaming lahat sa mga sakripisyo na nagbigay yung mga frontliners namin. Pero siguro to inspire yung mga nanonood, hindi lang yung mga girls pa natin, kung baka meron din tayong mga frontliners na nanonood ngayon. So, Kisha, tanong ko lang po, what inspires you or what keeps you going despite of what is happening now? Bakit nandyan po ngayon, nag-stay dyan at hindi sumusuko na pagserbisyuhan yung mga pasyente niyo po?
Okay. Well, to tell you honestly, I'm working here kasi at Metro Psych Facility and Roads and Bridges to Recovery, MPFRBR. It is a drug treatment, rehab, and behavioral modification center. So it's a rehab. And I have a personal experience with mental health. When I was in medical school, I experienced having depression, anxiety, and it came to a point that I was not able to control my symptoms. And I was questioning myself. Sabi ko, I want to be a doctor, but am I mentally fit to become a doctor? Ganun yung mga thoughts ko because during those times, hindi pa pinag-uusapan yung mental health, especially yung mental health ng health professionals. And it even came to a point that I attempted suicide. So, Roads and Bridges to Recovery, this facility helped me, and I consider this my second life na. And that is why it was an easy decision for me to stay here because our patients here are not just addicts. We also have here who are suicidal, who have behavioral problems, who are also professionals. We have doctors, artists, politicians here, and they just needed to be guided back to the real world. And ayun, this is the first time I was able to talk about this. I was planning to talk about it after I get my license, pero because of the COVID, nagtatagal. That is why I'm really glad to have this opportunity to talk about mental health, especially the mental health of healthcare professionals.
Thank you, Dr. Tisha, for your inspiring story. It is really something that is heartwarming, and you don't get to hear it, especially before the COVID and even now. And know that we're rooting for you and your license after the
Thank
COVID.
you. Thank you.
I heard you talk po about doctor shaming and it's very rampant before COVID po, di ba? So how can you suggest ways on how we can help our frontliners or provide emotional and mental health support to them? Especially now po na they're at the front lines of helping us secure our country and also our homes against COVID-19.
Well, alam nyo yung mga healthcare professionals, madali lang naman i-please yan. Sabihan nyo lang sila ng thank you. Malaking bagay na yun para sa kanila. I see in Facebook na ang daming para mga activities to show their appreciation to the frontliners. Yung nagpo-post ng mga banners saying thank you, kaya niyo yan. And it is also a big help to pray for them. And be patient. When you become a patient, be patient with your healthcare professionals. Okay? Yung iba, you could go a long way by giving food, donating PPEs, ganyan. Pero just showing that you're grateful to the healthcare professionals, hay nako, tanggal pagod, tanggal stress pati nga siguro kung COVID, tanggal COVID na pakiramdam sa kanila. Just being grateful to them.
That's something nice to hear po, and we hope now we may be able to show our gratitude to our frontliners, not just today during the COVID situation, but after po. But I also have a question po, Dr. Keisha and Dr. Febe. How do you suggest, or what are the ways we can accompany someone who is dealing with depression or anxiety, especially now that they are in quarantine? Or paano po kung kami po mismo yung nagdi-deal ng ganong mental health concerns po? How can we cope up with those?
It's important, first of all, to remember that it's okay not to be okay. Sometimes kasi we feel bad because we can't label the emotion that we're going through. And after that, hindi na nga natin maintindihan kung ano yung pinagdadaanan natin. We put judgment pa na I'm not supposed to feel this way. I need to be strong for my family. I need to be, I must not be weak. I don't want to be weak. So may judgment pa. Pero if you want to cry, cry. If you feel anger, be angry. If you are sad, be sad. It's okay. It's not a sign of weakness. So allow yourself to feel all these emotions. Label it. Sabi nga namin, if you name it, you could tame it. Okay? And right now, meron na nga tayong social distancing. Magkakaroon pa ba tayo ng social isolation? Let's be there for each other. Let's talk to each other. Syempre, kung hindi man face-to-face, like this, through online. Let's keep our communication, and then let's try to be productive. There could be online classes, coloring activities, spiritual activities that you can attend to through online. Everything's online naman na din ngayon. So, let's make the most out of it. And remember to reach out. I just want to say na din kasi it's okay to feel all these emotions. Pero kailan ba natin masasabi na hindi na tama to? When it is already affecting our function, if it's already affecting our daily life, then maybe we should seek professional help. And that is why I want to say na dito kami sa Roads and Bridges to Recovery, we have this website. It is www.recoveryhub.ph, wherein there is at the most 60 available psychiatrists who could pwede kang magpa-consulta through online. So, you don't have to go to the hospital or to the clinic to see a psychiatrist. And it will be anonymous. It's just you and your doctor. So, if you still feel na there's this stigma, hindi ka pa ready, it's okay. It will just be you and your doctor. So again, it's www.recoveryhub.ph. That's why I have this shirt, #Let'sTalkPH.
Wow.
Okay, so
It's important din talaga, Dr. Keisha, na note po na our feelings are valid. What we feel now is valid yan kasi yan yung nararamdaman mo. As a Girl Scout, how would I know if yung kapatid ko or yung mother ko merong something sa kanya na something na bothering or kailangan i-address? Paano ko po yun malalaman as a Girl Scout? At saka kung paano po ako mag-reach out to someone na nakaka-experience ng anxiety or ng depression?
okay, so pwedeng hindi lang as a Girl Scout. Kasi perhaps the Girl Scout thing is an X factor. you as a Girl Scout as compared to non-Girl Scout may show a difference in terms of the approach, no? In terms of approach, perhaps. So you're asking, how do you get to know if somebody in the house or someone you know is already experiencing or is no longer okay? So perhaps parang may signs of depression or anxiety na, no? So let's get to the bottom of things. Like the stress that we are experiencing right now is a result of first worrying, and then it fell into fear, and then suddenly anxiety. For the worst case is depression. So the stress during this pandemic can include fear and worry about your own health. So though for the longest time you know that you're healthy, but when this COVID-19 thing came, you suddenly question yourself, am I healthy? As if you're trying to tell yourself, I'm also a candidate to this. And then you start feeling worried and feeling anxious and depressed. And you also worry about the health of the health of your loved ones, especially if they are among the frontliners. Or so I could imagine how Dr. Banta worries so much about Doc Tisha, no? So there is also this changes in sleep and sleeping patterns. So if you start to see a dramatic change in terms of the sleeping patterns and eating patterns of the people inside your household or the people you get in touch with, this is a sign for warning, for a trouble, for that matter. So there's also this worsening of chronic health problems that ordinarily you're able to manage, but because of the pandemic, it has worsened. Perhaps I can give you some specific signs and symptoms. So when an individual starts feeling the feeling of hopelessness and helplessness. So anong ibig sabihin dito? If you hear words from people like, we cannot get through this. Actually, this is in the end of the world. I mean, it's impossible for us to discover a vaccine towards this. All of us will die anyway. So things like those are signs of feelings of helplessness and hopelessness, and that is again a warning for a trouble. The other thing is that there's the loss of the interest in daily activities. If people used to enjoy simple things, and then suddenly because of this pandemic, they don't seem to engage in these things anymore that they do routinarily and habitually, it's also a sign that something is not good anymore. So that some people have lost the ability to feel the joy and pleasure, even if they are among with the family members already, because they get too overwhelmed and preoccupied with the thought that death is about to come. And for some people, they also lost their appetite. So they either lose weight or gain weight, for that matter. So sometimes there's this insomnia, or for some other people, they also oversleep. So it could be both. These are signs, no? Or some people can get irritable. They feel restless. They get agitated or even violent. And they used to exercise maximum tolerance, but at this point, the level of tolerance is also very low. Their temper can be very short, and everything and everyone gets into their nerves. Ibang dating you're so amiable, everybody is just a darling to you, and then all of a sudden, because of this pandemic, naghalo-halo na yung anong klaseng hormones dyan, nakagagalitan na lahat ng mga tao. So wala na silang vibes. They also tend to lose their energy. They feel fatigue all the time. Even just rising from bed, they feel that they are too physically drained. They also experience some kind of self-loathing, which means to say that they have a strong feelings of worthlessness or guilt. So they even go to the extent of blaming themselves for this pandemic. And perhaps why are they led to this kind of feeling? Because they also have misgivings about themselves as well. So that at certain point they were able to forgive themselves, and they were able to come into terms with themselves because of what's happening now. I mean, the guilt feeling is back, so they feel worthless. We also see some reckless behavior, and this could be a sign that something is already wrong, and they're being eaten up by this COVID thing. There are also unexplained aches and pains. Let's say, for example, there is an increase in physical complaints such as headache, back pain, aching muscles, or stomach pains. In terms of anxiety, individuals, you could spot that something is wrong. You could say that something is wrong if individuals frequently get nervous or feel nervous, and that they also have a sense of impending danger, panic, or doom. They also, of course, these are overt manifestations, and I think it has been discussed by Dr. Hiss earlier, that individuals tend to have increase in heart rate. The breathing becomes more rapid. They sweat, they tremble, they feel weak or tired, and they have a trouble concentrating about anything other than the present worry. So it seems that pasan na nila ang buong daigdig. Hindi na nakakonsentrate lang yung problema o yung worry nila sa pandemic na ito. So we have to remember that depression and anxiety are comorbid for that matter. So while one is there, it may not necessarily be that they're both present, but in more likely they don't appear in isolation. So when one is depressed, it can be caused by anxiety, and yet anxiety is being triggered by depression as well. So pag nakikita mo itong mga specific behavior na ito, alam mo that the individual is suffering from depression and anxiety.
So Dr. Febe, ano naman kung meron tayong mga Girl Scout or anyone who is watching this video na sila yung nakaka-experience nun, and hearing from you po, baka naisip nila na yes, I'm experiencing that, meron ako mga ganong mga classing thoughts. How do they manage or paano nila mako-cope up yung situation nila ngayon?
Yeah. Actually, given the situation now that face-to-face interaction is prohibited and is strictly not allowed, how do we deal with this when during normal times they can just run to a counselor, they can run to a confidant, they can run to, in worst case, they can see a psychologist or a clinical practitioner, or they can see somebody whom they trust for that matter. But we have an adverse situation right now where face-to-face contact is not allowed. So how can we help these people who now are aware that this are being manifested by them? I can suggest the following. I think over and above, we have seen that in social media as well. Ang daming nasa Facebook, nasa internet, kung how to deal with this. But on top of this, there's this what we call telepsychology, where mental health professionals utilize different platforms for communication. Included in the telepsychology are significant persons surrounding the individual who is a victim or he is affected, so that they can be aware and be educated to deal with the concerned person. I have a partner psychologist, Dr. 𝐏𝐚𝐴𝐿 Custodio-Hoson, who's also a partner of mine in the OJ Psychological Services, who's actually conducting this telepsychology right now. And what she does is this is different from online counseling, because we are actually very much aware about confidentiality for that matter. So in this case, it's not only the concerned person who's talking to the psychologist, but the significant members of the family are also around to be given awareness of what's actually happening with the affected person, and for them to have a clearer understanding that the bottom of it all is that there has to be a strong support system. Anyone for that matter who's undergoing difficult moments in life, you only have the family or a strong support system there, and the problem is half solved. So the other thing that I can suggest is that to take a break from watching, reading, and listening to the news about pandemic. I have shared with you earlier that during the first 2 weeks of lockdown, I had a very unlikely experience about this thing, because for every moment that I have, as long as I'm free, I'm in contact with social media until such time that I experience not being able to sleep anymore and everything else. So hearing about the crisis repeatedly can be very upsetting, So I think the thing is, do media distancing. Not only social distancing, but for these people who are already having symptoms about this thing, they can do so media distancing. I was trying to browse over journals on the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, and one of the experts there said that we should stop looking at the figures because it's none of our business. It's none of our business, and we can't help in that case except for staying at home. The best contribution and the best help that we can give is to stay at home. So if we keep on looking into the figures, especially minutes before we sleep, then we don't even enjoy the luxury of going to bed anymore. So they were saying that if you probably sleep at 11 o'clock, or if you used to sleep at midnight, at least an hour before, you stop looking at the screen, because it's not going to give you a good dream for that matter, a beautiful dream for that. After all, everything that happened during the day can be viewed and can be seen by you the next day. So instead, they say, look at the triumphs, look at the positive stories, look at the success stories of those who have recovered, of those who have been cured for that matter. In other words, we can limit the exposure to news coverage about the pandemic if we want. So we can be extremely frightened about something we do not have a clear understanding about. And if with a person at home, let's try to be role models. Don't be very panicky for that matter. Don't be the first one to shout if you see that there's additional number in the figures. And we also have to take a break. We have to get plenty of sleep. I think those are mentioned earlier. And Dr. Tisha was talking about we have to get in touch with the people, especially those whom we have not been in touch with for the longest time. Because after all, we have claimed that we're so busy, and yet we have not 24 hours a day. So it's at this point in time that perhaps we can reconnect with the people. You try to do a kind of snail mail. We have not done that. So have you guys, for example, when was the last time you received a card coming from abroad, a snail mail? It gives us a different sense of happiness, isn't it? So perhaps we can do that this time. And then apart from the physical exercise, we can do some kind of breathing in, breathe. So if you suddenly feel not well, I think the easiest and the most simple way is to breathe in and breathe out. Okay, of course, there's the exercise. And in extreme cases, when the behavior is unmanageable already, I think it's high time to call to seek a professional help. Dr. Tisha was telling that. So we can refer them. If you have friends and they're afraid to tell their parents, perhaps you can call their parents and say, Tita, it's not a break of confidentiality here. Because if there is an imminent danger, meron nang nagbabagang danger kasi kunyari magbre-breakdown na yung tao, you don't break the seal of confidentiality because it's the integrity, it's the life of the person that is at stake here. So if you have friends whom you think are already having extreme symptoms about anxiety and depression and the other effects of this pandemic, then you can call their parents, you can call their guardians, and so that they can be referred to professional practitioners who are addressing this kind of concerns. And of course, after that, perhaps as a friend, you can follow up, okay? And check as to whether your friend or somebody else has shown signs of progress or has it worsened. So those are just some of the things that perhaps we can simply do to help people who are experiencing this problem. Because we cannot be face-to-face talking with one another. We cannot talk about this over coffee, over soda anymore. So, yeah.
People not be aware of yung work po na naitulong mo sa amin ngayon, yung mga mental health practitioners natin. Kasi kayo yung mga nag-work behind the scenes po eh. We've been saying thank you sa ating mga frontliners, pero siguro it's about time to say thank you din sa ating mga mental health practitioners who support our frontliners para makapagpatuloy sa pagbibigay serbisyo sa ating bayan. So maraming salamat din po sa lahat ng mga mental health practitioners natin na nagbibigay ng suporta sa ating mga frontliners. So friends, we proceed now to our last session.
Thank you, Dr. Tisha and Dr. Febe, for your advice, especially in how to reach out to people during this time of quarantine to be able to detect whether we're dealing with symptoms such as on depression and anxiety. And I guess that's it for our topic on mental health.
Yes, it is. So, siguro it's about time to hingi tayo ng mga bit of reminders or inspiring words from Dr. Tisha and Dr. Febe. Ano yung mga pwede niyo pong sabihin sa ating mga girls na makakatulong sa kanila in this times po? So, Dr. Tisha?
Okay, I'll keep it short. Sabi ko nga kanina, it's okay not to be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way. So, talk with your family, talk with your friends. Eto, let's look at the silver lining that we are given a chance to reconnect with other people. Even though there's social distancing, wag tayo sa social isolation. Okay, we can do this together.
Thank you, Dr. Tisha. We really appreciate your presence here in our GSP Peer Talks. Kayo naman po, Dr. Febe.
Oh yeah, Dr. Tisha was talking about, was telling us repeatedly and reminding us that it's okay not to be okay. I think that's very true. And I think I'd like to address to young Girl Scouts, to the Girl Scouts was in particular, no? Since most of you guys are glued with social media, and such preoccupation can be partly helpful to distract you from the inevitable changes. However, too much reliance on the screen can also cause serious concerns. I think you understand that. Therefore, as my parting words or perhaps insights for you to take is that you try to read only the legitimate news or information, and the best is that you have to look at authorized sources of news for that matter. So the other thing is that you have to recognize that your emotions are real. It could be that we're playing thing here, and it's because the tendency is that we join the bandwagon. Yeah, I'm so depressed. I'm so worried. I don't feel good. As Girl Scouts, you have to check whether your emotions are real. You have to validate your emotions. An example would be like, you're getting overwhelmed with the thought of dying or catching the ailment or the disease. So how can you do that? How can you die when you're not even exposed, or when you're even staying at a very healthy environment, or you don't have comorbids for that matter, or your place is actually zero COVID case. So this is also one way to stay mentally healthy. Validate your emotions. You also have to distract yourself from the dreadful COVID-19 thought by perhaps doing household chores. If for the longest time, you had your yaya and the yaya went home also and be with the family, it's perhaps the most noble time to learn new things. And Dr. Tisha was also sharing that we have to realize that we're actually not living in normal times. And perhaps we have to vision down that the new normal would come in. So that in your list, what would be the new normal? So that when we eventually get to this, we don't struggle already, because during this pandemic period, we have readied ourselves towards accepting the new normal. So I heard people doing some kind of online gardening. What does that mean? They host a Zoom meeting or an online party where everyone else is showing their gardening activities. Some people are also doing online photo album viewing. You haven't visited your hard copies for the longest time, get back to them. Song composition, online song composition writing, or try something you have long wanted to do but you claim you did not have the time to do it. Or perhaps we can make a structured time. Nabubuwang kasi yung tao kapag ano na naman ang gagawin bukas, ganito na naman uli. But when we started, for example, doing a structured schedule, that in the morning we do cleaning, after cleaning I do some kind of social media, after lunch, what's next? Netflix, and then if you have online classes, and then in the evening praying time. So you have something to look forward to, that tomorrow I will watch this movie because I have watched this list of movies already. So what else? So the other thing I think that concerns some young people, especially those who have been obliged to do online classes, is this is an added burden to them. This is an added stress to them. Some students in the province do not have very good internet connections. So on my part, I have voiced this out to authorities in Manila, and it's good that they acted on it. It's actually making them crazy, because the thought that it's pandemic and you do online classes, especially if these are skills-based, so how can they do online classes for that matter? And the realization that our body clock have changed. I don't know if you guys have experienced that. With my two kids being at home for this pandemic, and they're used to staying very late in the evening because of their classes, they have adapted that to here. So they only have 2 meals a day because they sleep at almost 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the evening, early morning. So they wake up at 12 o'clock or 12 noon the following day. It's okay not to be perfect, therefore, we have to lower our expectations. Meron sinasabing good enough, without sacrificing quality of relationship, quality of the productive things that we can do. So with this, when all else have failed in terms being efforts, we used to run to God as the last resort. So I think if there's one thing that I'd like to offer now, and I'd like to share now, is that we have always made God as the last resort. Most often than not, this time let's. So I was talking about this unlikely episodes of our lives. It's okay to we can lower our expectations without compromising the good, the true, and right. It's definitely not the time to be ideal or to be perfect. It's definitely acceptable not being perfect at this time. And this includes our relationship between and among the people we love, and between and among the people we get in touch with. So if all else have failed, God will not fail us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Febe.
Okay.
Maraming salamat po sa Dr. Tisha and Dr. Febe for gracing us with your presence here in the GSP Peer Talks. We really appreciate how much information you've shared with us and our girls.
We'll surely learn a lot po and enjoy from listening from both of you po. Thank you po. So ayan, that was a lot to absorb, no, Quintin? Ang dami ng mga senior nila, don't you think?
Indeed, ate. Actually, yung pinaka-favorite ko yung sinabi ni Dr. Febe na minsan ginagawa natin sa isang crisis, last resort si God. Pero in everything and anything, dapat siyang pinakauna nating resort or siya yung pinakauna nating pinupuntahan sa ganitong mga pangyayari.
Tama ka dyan. Ako din, isa yun sa mga pinaka-favorite part ko na parang di ba medyo may pagka-technical yung mga pinag-uusapan natin ngayon na about our physical health, mental health. Pero tama nga si Dr. Kevin na hindi dapat natin talaga makakalimutan na lumapit kay God during this time. And sabi nga niya, di ba, hindi tayo iiwan God sa kung ano man itong pinagdadaanan natin ngayon. And siguro nagbiting to highlight sa sinabi nila is let's be prepared for the new normal after this quarantine. Kasi after all, there is really life after this enhanced community quarantine. Meron tayong buhay pa na siguro may mga changes, pero mas maganda kung ngayon pa lang prepare na natin yung sarili natin sa mga changes na may encounter natin after this pandemic. So, I know naman na yung mga girls natin, they learned a lot from this video. Diba, Francine? Hindi lang nga sila pati tayo, diba?
Tama ka dyan, ate. Actually, ito na ata yung pinaka-favorite kong session sa lahat ng nagawa natin.
So, that's it for our GSP Peer Talks. But before we truly end this video, on behalf of all the peer educators at Jade, Dorothy, Cello, and Jeneline, we would like to thank you all, Girl Scouts, for participating in the Fight COVID-19 GSP Challenge Batch. We hope that you really did enjoy, learned a lot, and siguro yung iba nakapag-bonding pa with their family while accomplishing their challenges. And keep safe. Yun ang pinakamahalaga ngayon na reminder. Keep safe. Sabi ko nga, diba, stay negative sa COVID, but positive in life.
Well, I guess this really ends our Fight COVID-19 GSP Challenge Badge and also our GSP Peer Talks. Once again, I'm your Ate Francine.
And I'm your Ate Justine. Keep safe, Girl Scouts. Bye-bye!
Bye!